Today's story is called Mayonnaise. It was difficult to transplant myself in the Northwest without okra, sweet tea, and grits. But hardest of all was living in a region where mayonnaise is considered a second-class condiment and serious artery foe. I am a mayonnaise addict. All foods that are not swimming in maple syrup can only be enhanced with a dollop of mayonnaise. When no one's looking, I gleefully add mayo to sushi, Hungarian goulash, burritos. It is an inherited addiction. My father even wanted Mother to make mayonnaise from scratch the way his mother and his grandmother did. Of course, Daddy was only in the kitchen to smell, observe, or eat. He had no idea how much time it takes to make mayonnaise. Mama learned his mother's recipe and spent hours making breads, jellies, cakes, stews, things you couldn't buy at a store. But Mama could buy Duke's or Hellmann's mayonnaise, and she considered that good enough for a topping. Whenever Mama served a mayo-based dish, like tuna salad or something, Daddy asked, "Is it homemade mayo?" And Mama answered, in Miss Hellmann's own home." Daddy looked sad until Mama explained it was either make mayo or chocolate cake with mayonnaise in it. Mama also used mayonnaise for hair treatment and mashed potatoes, but she didn't want to make it. Well, this discussion finally ended one night when Mama got Daddy to help in the kitchen. Mama was scraping salmon out of a tin can, and my brothers and I were at the kitchen table helping out by grating cabbage when Daddy came home. "Are we having coleslaw?" he asked. Mama smiled at him and said we were. "Are we having homemade mayo in the coleslaw?" he said with raised eyebrows. She looked at him for a few seconds and then smiled. "Why, yes. Yes, we are, if you'll help me." The sight of my Daddy in the kitchen was so unusual that my brothers and I stayed put. We were chopping carrots and onions for the slaw. Mama got out the eggs, oil, vinegar, and showed Daddy how to fold and hold 2 forks back to back to make a whisk. He started to stir while she poured in a drop of oil. "Keep stirring," she told him. "Can I use the egg beater?" he asked her in a few minutes. Mama handed him the hand-cranked beater, and Daddy turned those whirligigs faster than pinwheels in a storm. Now, my brother Shaq was trying to keep our table crew focused on the work, but Brother Ken and I were by now turning our carrots into cigars. And then Daddy upset the apple cart when he said, "Phooey," because all the oil and the eggs had separated. "Oh my, you have to start over. That's why your granny always whisked with forks instead of beaters." Mama cracked 2 more eggs for him and explained you can't beat the yolks too hard or too fast. She added a tiny drop of oil. "Can't you put it all in at the same time?" Daddy asked her. Well, Daddy taught Mama into adding a little more oil to speed things along, but when she did, the gooey mixture curdled into yellow balls with oil rivers floating away from the yolks. Shaq took over the salmon frying while Mama took out more eggs, separated the whites and yolks again. "When does it start looking like mayonnaise?" Daddy asked her, getting tired. "Oh, you need to whisk a while longer," she told him. Then she added vinegar and told Daddy it was his mother's homemade vinegar and fresh eggs that made the mayo taste so good. Well, that night, when we finally sat down to eat, Daddy was a-grinning. "Oh boy, I can't wait." But after 1 forkful of the slaw, he said to Mama, "It doesn't taste right." She looked at him, pretty sympathetic, and said maybe he was just too tired to enjoy his handiwork. Then she ate the slaw and said it was wonderful. "Why, it's just like your grandmother's. Maybe you could help out and make more mayo, and we could put it up in jars like Hellmann's does." Daddy held his fork and stared at her. Mama stared right back. Then she smiled and asked if he'd like a salmon patty. "It's your Mama's recipe," she said, spooning them on his plate. "Would you like some mayonnaise with them?" "Sure," Daddy said, and Mama slid a spoonful of mayo over the salmon croquettes. I still like mayo on my salmon, but I know it's a culinary blasphemy in the Northwest where the fish leap from Puget Sound instead of a can. and natives do not understand my addiction to this luscious, creamy white condiment that tastes like home. I'm Auntmama, and that's a little tale from my neck of the woods. Thank you all for listening now.